the very first game engine that we're going to be working with is Construct 3. And the reason why would be a go-to for a very first game engine to test out as you're learning about game development is that it's ran in the browser, and it's also what they call event-driven, or it's basically visual scripting, where you don't have to actually know a programming language to develop a game, but you need to understand the logic behind specific mechanisms that make up functions in the game, like a character moving or jumping or collecting an object. Those are all done through events. And the good thing about Construct here is it'll give you a basic walkthrough. So when you go to visit construct.net, is I'm going to go ahead and launch the application and walk you through the tour. And so we want to go ahead, and right now you're set up, they call it a free trial, but you can actually use the game engine without actually registering for an account. You're limited on the features, but it still has enough to get you up and going. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the guided tour. And I'm going to go ahead and take the guided tour just because it has a nice step-by-step instruction on setting up your very first game. So I would recommend that if you're following along, that you do read these prompts that come along the guided tour. They have information about what's going on. I'll do my best to explain what's happening, but it is recommended that you do read these to help you along the way. This first one here is just a basic run and jump platformer style game. And so they want us to create a brand new project. But before I do that, I want to let you know about this nice little red indicator up here. Is that currently with the guest version, you're given that 25 events. The events are what makes the game run, the mechanics behind the game. And so you're given 25. And 25 is actually a good amount to get a really robust game going. But if you do decide to register for an account and verify your email, they're going to set you up with 50 events, so basically double. And so if you decide to go with that route, that is excellent for long-term productivity. But for what we're doing right now is that we're just going to walk through the tour, get ourselves set up with the game engine. So I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new project. And you're given different options here. You can change the preset on the layout, with the viewport, or that's the window that you play the game in, any kind of orientation. And they want us to use just this default SD landscape, a 16:9 aspect ratio. So I'm going to go ahead and create. And so we're now given a empty game project here. And what we have going on here, which they're not going to talk about here in the guided tour, but I will, is that the layout of Construct is that you've got these different panels, and each of these panels provides information about your game. So what we have right here in the middle is where the layout is being created. This is where you're going to build and design your game in, is in the layout panel. It's hard to tell right now, but I'll talk about it once we actually get into a different version of the tour. Is that this little, if you can see it, there's a little dotted line here. That represents what's being played in the game, and we'll cover that on a later part. Your properties, that consist of different information about the actual project, or a specific object in your game has different properties that you can then interact with: size, color, positioning, and so forth. On this right-hand side is the project panel. This is where all of your layouts, your event sheets, that's what makes the game run. All the different objects and all the different components that make up a specific project are come in your project panel. And then just below that is the layers panel. So with the free version, you're giving 2 layers. Why that's important is because you can put different objects in different layers and have them work independently based on what type of game it is. Normally you would have a set game layer and then possibly like a HUD layer where you are tracking player lives, collectible counts, Maybe things that you need to click on or interact with would go in a different kind of layer. So the more layers you have, the better. So with the free version, they give you 2 layers, and it's still able to get some of the game built and run smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and go to next. And so here, they want us to double click to create a brand new object. That's one way to do this. You can double click with your mouse to bring up the new object pop-up window. You could also right click to insert that new object, as well as over in the project panel, there's this object types folder that also will allow you to create your objects for your game. Everything that you have in your game is considered an object, whether it's the sprite of the character, if it's going to be the keyboard or the mouse. Those are all objects inside of the game here. And so I want to go ahead, I want to insert this new object, and it wants us to use this sprite object. All 2D games are using this sprite as an actual object, whether it be the character's animation. Maybe you're just prototyping, so you have maybe squares or circles as your what they call primitives, and that allows you to function in the game. Every game object has a default name that's based on what type of game object it is. Later on, we're actually going to change this name, but I always recommend that you change the name right away and make the name meaningful to what the object is or what it's going to do in the game, so it's easy to identify. So I'm going to go ahead and double click. And then now I need to actually place this object in on my canvas or my layout. This is going to then create a editing window for our sprite. And then here on the tutorial is that they're given, or actually we're given a object to work with. If you were to create this project on your own with no actually assets, you would then want to open up your asset folder that maybe you've downloaded from a art site and use that way. But it's nice that they have one for us to use. So I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to drop this in here. And again, this is the sprite editor, and there is our little, it's like a pig with a helmet. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window out. That's going to bring in our player. And here they want us to change the name. This is a property. So this actual sprite object now has properties, and it wants us to change it from this default sprite, and it wants us to create the name of player. And so now we have our player set up. So if you can't see the player right now, they might be under the dialog box, which is right there. So this dialog box obviously is hiding the player. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next. The player can't do anything yet. We need to add some behaviors. Behaviors is what makes objects move in different ways, maybe flash, maybe falling in a specific position. So let's go ahead and add some behaviors. And so on this object in the properties panel, we have behaviors. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new behavior, and it wants us to use this platform behavior. This allows the object that it's added to move and jump with the arrow keys by default. Sometimes in gaming, most players will play with the WASD keys, but in this case, Construct by default is only going to allow you to use the arrow keys. We would have to then extend the functionality to use the WASD keys if you wanted to move the player with those keys. So I'm going to go ahead and double click here. And now I've added that behavior. You can add multiple behaviors to your objects. And so we're going to add a second behavior. And it wants us to use this scroll to. The scroll to behavior is like your camera. The camera will position on whatever object this scroll to behavior is at. So as the object is moving or the player is moving, the camera or the viewport that you see is going to follow you wherever you go. Now I've got 2 behaviors for this, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And so now let's verify that we can get the player movement going. So we need to create another new object. Right now our player is just kind of floating here. There's nothing for the player to stand on. So we're going to go ahead and create that object. This time they want us to use this tiled background. This allows for a repeating pattern. Let's say here in the actual image, there are these green and white squares. As I was to stretch this object, it would then repeat that pattern as long as I was stretching. You would want this for graphics that have a nice design that allow for that. You don't want to use, say, a sprite for something that you would like to tile over and over again. And so I'm back in the layout again, and it wants me to click and place this object here. And so they've given us a nice shape here to work with. So I'm going to grab, drag, and drop. And this design is perfect for a tiled background because the edges here are going to match up. And so when this object is stretched, it'll allow for the pattern in this design to repeat. Now, in order for this player, which has a platform behavior, which is essentially has physics applied to it, this new tile background, it also needs some behaviors for these two objects to interact with one another. So I'm going to add a behavior. And so it wants us to use the solid behavior that allows for the player to then stand on this object. And so it wants us to go through now. And so now it wants us to actually make a little bit of a design here. So if I take this, place this here, you can actually grab these handles with your mouse. If I go towards this middle one here, I can click and I can drag, and it's going to continue to repeat that pattern all the way over. If I was to grab the bottom one, see, it's going to repeat down, which is what I don't want it to do, but I would rather have it kind of repeat this way. And then you can then place these within the area here. All this gray area here, this is the layout. This is how much area you would have to work with building your level or your level design. And if I hold the control on the window or a command on the Mac, you can zoom in and out with the scroll wheel to zoom in and out to see your full layout here. And so what if I was to place one here? And so in order for me to make a copy of this, I can do the control or the command and click the object and drag, and now I've made a copy of this, and I'm going to place this right there. Maybe and then make another one sort of right there, and then maybe give the player, see if I can jump up there. So now I've created some sort of design here, nothing very fancy. And so now we are given the opportunity to preview our layout with the play button. Okay, so now I've got my solid ground with my player. I can use the left and right arrow keys for movement, left and right, and I can use the up arrow key for jumping. And then as I move, the camera is moving with me with the scroll to behavior. So let's go ahead and jump over. I can jump up and then jump up there again. And then for some reason, if I was to fall, the camera just goes with me. Now my player now has gone beyond the layout, so the camera is not going to follow me anymore. So I can close this out. All right. So we've made some more platforms. I want to make a few more here. So let's put maybe one more here. Maybe we'll put one down here in case the player does fall. And then I'll put another one on this side. And then maybe can just put one across the full bottom there. Okay. We can try it again. Okay, so left and right, up arrow key for jumping. And if the player goes down here, I've got more area to work with. And now I've hit the bottom of my layout. And now the player's all set up. Now it says add something for the player to run around picking up. Most games, the player will collect something, a coin, a diamond, another object. So we need to add that object in here. So I'm going to go ahead and double click to open up to create a new object. Again, this will be a sprite. So I'm going to double click on the sprite and then click on the layout. They're giving us a tomato to work with. So I'm going to zoom back in here. First, actually, they need us to change the name to tomato. And then I'm going to zoom back in. There's my tomato that I'm going to collect. So I'm going to place one here. I'm going to hold the control or command, click and drag. So I'm going to put another tomato over there. If you hold down the space bar on the keyboard and just move the mouse, not the actual clicking, but to move the mouse, I can pan around. So I'm going to put a tomato there. I'll put a tomato up here. Put a tomato there. We'll put a tomato down there, and then I'll put some tomatoes here at the bottom. Let me zoom out. Put one over here. So I can put as many tomatoes as I want. All right. Now it wants us now to add the keyboard object. So with the keyboard object, there is only one keyboard ever used in your game. Therefore, it doesn't need to have the name changed. And it's going to go ahead and just insert that object directly into our object folder. Now, this is where the magic happens. The event sheet is what makes the actual game work. Here in their example here is that they have a bullet, which this is the event, and then you have a condition and an action. Here, if the bullet is on collision with this monster, I want to destroy the monster, and then I want to destroy the bullet. That's their example about what's happening here. And so every layout can use its own event sheet, or you can have different all layouts running from one event sheet. And that would be something that we look at in a different video. But for this one, I'm going to add an event. And so we're going to go ahead and double click on the player, because the player, we need to be able to collect those tomatoes, but also make sure that when we're moving, we're facing in the correct direction. And that's what we're going to do here. And so here, on collision with another object. So the player, the pig, is going to collide with the tomato. And then I get to choose this. You can choose a object that you want to run into, in this case, the tomato. And that's going to be the event that's happening. Player on collision with tomato. Now an action has to happen. In this case, we want to go ahead and remove that tomato from our game so that we can no longer have access to it. So I'm going to pick the tomato, and then I want to destroy that tomato. Okay, let's go ahead and add some extra events on the keyboard, and then on key pressed. And this is where I'm going to press the left arrow key. Now here it's looking for a specific key. I can actually press the key on the keyboard, left arrow, and it's gonna actually show up. If I was to press right arrow, down arrow, maybe the L key or the P key, you can choose whatever you key on the keyboard that you want to interact with. In this case, is the left arrow. And OK, and then done. And what this is saying is that, hey, when the user is pressing the left arrow, I want to take my player object and I want to mirror it. Currently, this object, our player object, it's facing in the right direction. If I'm going to go left, I need to flip this character or mirror this character. So I want to head and mirror, and then done. And then we need to do the opposite, going in the right direction. Because if you were to flip your character or mirror your character, when you press the left, it won't automatically go back to the right. Even though the player's graphic is right by default, it won't go back. You actually have to tell the game engine to then turn the graphic back the other way. So add an event on the keyboard, on key pressed, and this time it's going to be the right arrow key, and done. And the action is on the player, and I want to set them mirrored, and this time I want to choose not mirrored because by default the player is not mirrored. And then done. Let's test this out. So now if I go right, I collect the tomato, it disappears. If I press left, the character faces the left or right. So now the character is facing in the correct direction on movement. And every time I collide with the tomato, it's now being deleted or destroyed from the scene itself. Okay, so I'll close the preview out. And now it says here, congratulations, you made a basic platformer. Try making some more changes to this project on your own, and then go further. Now they do have another example of a different type of platformer with different assets. We'll look at that on a different video, but for this very first one, congratulations, you made it through the basic tutorial on using the Construct game engine. I hope you enjoy watching, and I'll see you next time. Once I finished up the guided tour, I realized that I forgot to show you how to actually save your game. So that way you can go back and use this game on a different computer or come back to it at a later time. So I've got the same project opened up here, and if I go up to the menu, is that under project, you can save in different formats. You can save it local to the browser, you can download a copy, or you can save it to the cloud save here. I would recommend that you do cloud save. They have connections to Dropbox, OneDrive, or Google Drive. This allows you then to have access to the file for your game at any place, at any time that you would need. Because if you do save it locally, then that copy is on that machine, whether it's a school computer, whether it's a laptop, a friend's computer, it's there and you no longer have access to it anywhere else. So I would recommend doing the cloud save, but if you do need it to download a copy, you can, and then transport it that way. One thing that you want to note is that when you are saving your file, that you don't accidentally delete the extension. Every file type has an extension. So for instance, say Microsoft Word has the .doc or docx. In this case, Construct uses .c3p as the file extension. Your file needs that extension in order for Construct to read the file. If you accidentally remove that or don't have that extension correctly and you try to open it again, it will not open the file. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this the guided tour.c3p, and then I'm going to go ahead and OK to save a copy of that file. Now it's in my downloads, and if I was to then close this project out, go to close project, and then if I wanted to reopen this project, I can go from cloud or I can go file. So I'm going to click file, it's from the downloads, and then I'm going to look for this file, and there it is. guided tour. I'm going to upload there, and there is my project that we left off on. Hope that helps, and we'll catch you on the next video.